For the first time in more than 50 years, we've got humans heading out to the moon. It's happening. The Artemis II mission is this incredible, ambitious test flight, really pushing the envelope of deep space exploration. But what's it actually like for the crew out there, day to day? Well, let's zoom in and take a look at just one 24-hour period in their epic journey. Flight Day 4.
First things first, let's get a sense of scale, because it's just mind-boggling. By this point, the crew is already 100,000 miles away from home. Think about that. That is almost halfway to the moon. From their window, Earth isn't the whole world anymore. It's this beautiful, brilliant blue and white marble just hanging in the infinite black of space.
So inside that Orion capsule, which they've named Integrity, you've got Commander Reid Wiseman, pilot Victor Glover, and mission specialist Christina Koch and Jeremy Hansen. They're settling into this really unique rhythm of life in deep space. These are the first people to leave Earth orbit since the Apollo 17 crew way back in 1972. And their day, it's this carefully choreographed dance of science, engineering, and, just living.
A day in space is never just one thing, right? It's always this mix of super detailed plans meeting the totally unpredictable nature of spaceflight. And for the Artemis II crew, Flight Day 4 was a perfect example of this. It was a day that started with some absolutely fantastic news from Mission Control down in Houston.
So on the morning schedule, they had a course correction burn planned. This is pretty standard stuff, a little nudge from the thrusters to make sure the spacecraft is on the absolute perfect trajectory to swing by the moon. Totally routine. But then, the call comes up from Houston. Scrub the burn. We're canceling it. Now, when you're dealing with spaceflight, canceling something that was planned can sometimes, make you a little nervous. But in this case, it was the exact opposite of bad news.
And this just shows you how incredibly good the teams and the technology are. The trans-lunar injection burn, that's the big one. The massive push that rocketed them out of Earth's orbit and threw them towards the moon. It was so perfect, so ridiculously precise, that the little correction burn wasn't even necessary. That's not just a small win, that is a huge vote of confidence in the whole system. It saves fuel, it saves time, and it just proves everything is working flawlessly.
So, with the spacecraft sailing perfectly through space, the crew could turn their attention to other things. And that's when they ran into a problem that's, let's say, a little less glamorous than orbital mechanics, but absolutely critical to keeping the crew happy and healthy.
Turns out the wastewater dump system was on the fritz. Yep, a nozzle that's supposed to vent wastewater and urine safely into space seemed to be blocked, probably by a little bit of ice. This is a big deal. It meant the crew had to switch to using these backup contingency bags, which is not ideal. It's a pretty stark reminder that even on the most advanced spaceship ever built, sometimes it really just comes down to the plumbing.
So how in the world do you fix a frozen pipe when you're 100,000 miles from Earth? Well, you use the biggest, most powerful heater in the entire solar system. The crew actually performed a manual maneuver, carefully turning the Orion capsule to point the nozzle directly into the sunlight to warm it up, along with some help from its own internal heaters.
And you know what? It worked like a charm. The ice blockage cleared, the system came back online, and things could go back to normal. You can just imagine the collective phew from both the crew and everyone in Houston. It was just a brilliant piece of clever, on-the-fly problem solving.
All right, with the plumbing fixed, the crew could finally get on with the second half of their day, which was absolutely packed. See, their job isn't just to fly the ship. They're also scientists, they're test subjects, and they are our ambassadors on this incredible journey.
And just look at their afternoon schedule here. It was a total whirlwind. They started with some really important medical demonstrations, then they jumped into a public affairs event talking live with reporters, and right after that, Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen held a Q&A with Canadian press. What a moment, connecting an entire country to its first astronaut ever to fly to the moon.
And the science they were doing was just fascinating. They were actually practicing how to perform CPR in zero gravity, which is totally different when you don't have gravity to help you with the compressions. They were also testing other medical gear. And of course, they themselves were the subjects of studies on how the human body adapts to deep space. Every single one of these tests provides crucial data for those future, longer trips to the moon and even to Mars.
And of course, they shared the view. All through the day, they were sending back these absolutely breathtaking photos of Earth, just shrinking behind them, looking like this fragile little oasis. These pictures, they do more than just document the trip. They connect every single one of us, right here, back to the mission on a deeply emotional level.
But, believe it or not, maybe the most hands-on, exciting part of the day was still to come.
It was time for the astronauts to stop being passengers and to actually become pilots, to take manual control of their spaceship in the middle of deep space.
This was a moment they had trained for endlessly. For about 70 minutes, the crew took the reins from the automated systems. They fired the thrusters, tested how Orion handles, making these tiny, precise movements. And here's the coolest part. In this fantastic display of teamwork, all 4 astronauts, not just the pilot, got a turn at the controls. Every single one of them got to fly Orion. Now, this wasn't just for fun, as cool as it sounds. Testing out Orion's fine-tuned handling is absolutely vital practice for what's coming next in the Artemis program. We're talking about delicate maneuvers, like rendezvousing and docking with a lunar lander in orbit around the moon. This test proved Orion is ready for it.
So as their very, very busy day started to wind down, the crew's focus began to shift. It moved from the Earth getting smaller behind them to the destination that was getting bigger and bigger ahead of them, the Moon. The next huge milestone of their mission was getting closer by the minute.
By the end of Flight Day 4, they'd officially crossed the halfway point. They were now only about 150,000 miles from the Moon, with that incredible lunar flyby just a couple of days away. You can just feel the anticipation building, both on the ship and back on the ground.
And so, their last job of the day was to get ready for that big moment. The crew spent time going over their photography targets and observation plans, making sure they were prepared to capture every possible bit of scientific data and as many mind-blowing images as they could during their super-fast pass of the lunar surface.
So what's the big takeaway from Flight Day 4? Well, from a flawless trajectory right out of the gate, to some really clever problem-solving with the plumbing, to skillfully piloting their spacecraft, the crew and Orion passed every single test with flying colors. The mission is right on track. It was, by all accounts, a complete success.
As Artemis II pushes onward, taking us farther from home than we've been in a generation, it kind of leaves you with this one big question. As we look out at new worlds, and then we look back at our own, what will this brand new perspective of Earth, seen from deep space, teach us about our home and our place in the universe?